Welcome to Flashpoint TV. My name's Austin Haynes, your host. Your turnaround story starts here, but actually, your health turnaround story starts right here. I'm excited because we are kicking off our series where we are interviewing our amazing co-authors with turnaround stories that involve health and well-being that are sure to inspire you at a deep level and create the change that you might need at this particular time in your life. So welcome to the show today. I am excited. The seasons are changing, things are moving, and we want them to move in your life. We want that big breakthrough in your life. I have an incredible guest that's going to join me today all the way from South Africa. We are global, so you are going to hear an incredible story today. I ask you to bear with us because of the connection. There will be some pauses in between so we can get the information out so that you can grasp what's being said and process it for yourself. But before we do, I want to kick off the show. Let me know you're with me today. Type in the chat, type it in, say hello. Are you ready for that big breakthrough? Are you ready for that turnaround? Let me know you're there today. And I'm glad you're here joining us today. And that brings me to this. This is our hourglass. This is our symbol to be present, to be fully in the moment. This is to remind us that we can't go backwards and change what has happened. We can certainly go back and learn, but we don't want to go back and regret. Let it go. It's time to move on. We can't live in the future. We can certainly create the vision that we aspire to, but we want to avoid worrying about the future. The truth is we can only be right in this very moment. And that's what I want to invite you to do. I want to invite you to step into this moment with us today. And I trust that you will get exactly what you need. So that's our hourglass to remind us to be present. The next thing we highlight here, and pun intended, is the Thomas Edison light bulb. The Thomas Edison light bulb. This is a replica of the Thomas Edison light bulb. I literally purchased this at the site the light bulb was invented. And Thomas Edison said, I did not fail. And they said, did you fail 10,000 times? No, I did not fail. I successfully created 10,000 ways the light bulb could not be created. And it's a glaring reminder and a reminder of Flashpoint that if we stay with it, that if we can move through, that we are not failing, we are learning ways that it won't work till we get to our Flashpoint moment. And lo, there it is. And that is in your future as well. And then the last thing we do is we highlight the cowbell. The cowbell is for those teaching moments that happen throughout the show. So I want to welcome you in. Welcome, Mandy. Good morning, Simon. Welcome to our team. Looking forward to hearing your story. Absolutely looking forward to that. So I'm excited to bring Simon on. If you're just joining, my guest today is going to be Simon Hoare. And Simon is from South Africa. He has an incredible story. I met him through James McNeil's community, and I learned about his story. We talked about his story, and we were saying, because he wanted to be in our book potentially, and we were saying, okay, is this a good fit? When I heard the story, I was so moved by it. And I'll just give you a little bit of background on him. First of all, you heard he's from South Africa. He has a master's in organizational industrial psychology from Manchester University in the UK. So he's already world traveled. He has his Post Graduate Diploma in coaching and counseling from the South African College of Applied Psychology. He spent many years in the HR consulting world. So he has a tremendous background of dealing with people. And why he's a great fit for our health turnaround book is because he focuses not just on what you eat, but it's the total being that creates wellness. So it's a broad view of what creates wellness in a person. And I really appreciate that. But when you hear the story, I just shared all the accolades. When you hear the story behind this, you'll like, how did he get there? And you're going to hear that incredible story. So before I bring Simon on, I just want to share with you the book cover, because Simon's going to be in the book. So I want to take this opportunity to share our book that's coming out that Simon's going to be featured in. And here it is. Your health turnaround story starts here. So without any further ado, I just want to make a point. Give us the time, because we're going to be, there's going to be some delay. So I want you to bear with us and help me welcome Mr. Simon Hoare. Simon, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And yourself?
I'm doing
to be on the show. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, I'm doing great. And I'm so glad that you're able to join me all the way from South Africa.
Yeah, I'm in Cape Town, sunny South Africa. Thank you.
Cape Town, that's a beautiful place. I would imagine the weather's warming up there now.
Yeah, that's true. We did have torrential rain yesterday. Today is beautiful and sunny.
Fantastic. Mandy's saying, what an honor to have you on. I want to...
Yeah. Well, it's an honor for me too.
Yes. And we want to really take this time to learn your story. What I want to share is your story is going to be in the book, but I want people to really get the depth of where you've come from. Because when I share your credentials and your accolades on the surface, it's very impressive, right? But I want people to understand the road that you took to get there. Are you willing to share the earlier parts of your story to help people understand why it is that you do what you do?
Yeah, I think it's an honor to help other people my story, and that's why I really tell my story, so that other people can identify with it, other people can relate to, and hopefully be helped through that. So do you want me to share it now, or do you...
Well, what I wanted to ask you, are you willing to go back in time a little bit to grab those earlier moments when are you willing to do that?
So maybe if I just give a bit of my family history. I come from quite a unique, small nuclear family. There's only my brother and myself. He's 2 years older than I am. He's an electronic engineer. So my father was 59 when I was born. He was born in 1911 in Bournemouth. My mother was 37 when I was born, and she was born in South Africa in 1930. So it was quite an unusual 22 years difference between my mother and my father. So from my father's side, he was quite a kind person, very lovely man, very a real English gentleman, but he suffered from codependency and workaholism. He was very much addicted to his work and doing work well. So I'm telling, and my mom was.
So your father was workaholic, codependent, correct?
Yeah. Well, that's my interpretation, looking back.
Okay.
I didn't understand that necessarily as a youngster, but looking back, I can see that my father, when he retired, he went into depression. That he realized that because he was worthless, not having any occupation, and he didn't have many hobbies. My mom, on the other hand, her father passed away when she was 6 during the war, the Second World War, and he died in the UK. He was engineer making ammunitions during, and he died of lung cancer when she was 6. She didn't mourn his death, I don't believe, very well, and she started overeating first.
So I'm going to ask you, Simon, because I want everybody to hear your story. Because of the connection, I want you to speak a little bit louder and a little bit slower, because I want people to hear your story about your father who was depressed, and then your mother lost her father and she started to overeat. And there you are interpreting this world, trying to understand and make sense of it. So what happened next?
Okay, so when I was born, obviously my mom was 37. She had started smoking nicotine cigarettes when she was university, which was the age of 16 or 7. She went to university at a fairly young age, 17. So when I was born, she was a nicotine addict. So what I call a substance addict. I want to be, it was accepted in those days, very much accepted. So it's not her fault. I don't blame her. I don't blame my father. They were a wonderful couple and one parents. So what I do want to say is that my mom also used to say that we were driving her to drink as children, which was that she would always want to have a drink when it came to 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock evening. So it was another substance that she was using to numb her feelings. So that's very where my background.
Now, do you remember some of the early times where you felt something was maybe off, or you started to feel some of these characteristics that were manifesting in you, albeit you didn't know what it was?
Yeah, I think as a youngster, I started. Well, what happened to me was that because mom smoked during pregnancy and also drank, we didn't do so much during brother's pregnancy. I found out because she had quite bad morning sickness and illness during his pregnancy, which would have been her first pregnancy. I believe I was born, in a way, a nicotine addict. It's technically true from a medical perspective. I was a very niggly, very needy young bee. So I needed I needed a lot of attention as a bee. So obviously I can't remember that part of it, but that was the story that was told by my mother to me. Compared to my brother, I was a much more needy baby.
So I wanted to just grab this share from Ivy. To hear you drive me to drink from a parent has psychological implications later on. So that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, we never taught parents. So we children don't come with the manual. So we don't realize the effect words or sayings have on a child. So another thing that happened to me, which was because during the apartheid era in South Africa. So that was when basically black people were not able to be citizens of South Africa. They had to be citizens of a homeland, which would have been Transkei, Ciskei, Bophuthatswana. I don't want to go into politics too much, but what happened was we employed a woman who was my nanny, a very lovely young woman, Tswana woman from the tribe. So Tswana, but she spoke English to me. So I had a very good bond with her, and she was arrested at our home because the police came and asked her for her papers. I was the only one at home with her at the time. My mom was out shopping or a hairdresser, and my dad was at work, and my brother would have been at probably preschool at that stage. So he would have been about 6 years old, and I was 4 or 5 years old at the time. I remember it in detail, but that certainly would have been for me, seeing my nanny being put into a police van and away. And I then became even more needy because I now suffered panic attacks.
I want to capture this for our audience, that you had a nanny and she was African American, a beautiful woman. She would take care of you. You have a memory of the authorities coming, police, and taking her away because it was during the apartheid and they wanted papers or whatever. And so they ended up taking her, removing her from your home as a caretaker. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
That must have been extremely difficult.
Correct.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me is so not true. Words can cut you like a knife. And on the flip side, it can lift you to incredible heights as well. Absolutely. The words have power. And I would add to that, that it's the emotions behind the words that really have the power. But it can leave indelible, irreparable. Well, I believe everything's repairable, but it changes. It can leave a damage that we need to come to grips with and become aware of in order to heal. Terrible sight to see her arrested. Yes, thanks, Mandy. Thanks, Ivy. Simon, what happened from here as you move forward and now you're going through this difficult time?
So I then went to preschool myself, or what we in South Africa call nursery school. Went to a zones, and I started having panic attacks. My mother, or my new nanny. We had to employ a new nanny. Unfortunately, we couldn't continue to employ Regina because of the papers situation. I mean, very ridiculous. She was born 50 miles away from Sydney, and she wasn't allowed to work in our city, and that was the issue. So I got panic attacks. If they weren't one of the first people coming through the door to collect me, I think that they had a fear of abandonment, became fear of abandonment.
Fear of abandonment.
At that stage. I now think that was, yeah. My mom tended to say that it was because of television, but looking back, I think because we started getting television in Africa, we were a bit behind the world because there wasn't wanting television. They saw it as something taking away from Christianity, away from the church, and they used Christianity to back up apartheid in terms of Afrikaner being the chosen. But it's not. That's all in the past. So we like to let go of the past. And I think it's important in life to go of these things. But this is just telling my story of what happened. And
right.
So I had a fear of it, and a fear of death. alone. So my code at a very young age as well, because that I'm to be abandoned.
So
And
I just
I
wanted
started
to,
eating as well. So I also then started replicating my mother's.
yeah, I wanted to capture this, that you are in school and you're having panic attacks because of the stress of this, and then you develop the fear of abandonment, and now you're there's a codependent kind of starting to happen, and then you're going into food. Is that correct? Like where you're eating.
Yeah, so I'm starting to eat on my feelings, um, overeat. I also, at a young age, had nephritis, a kidney infection, acute kidney infection. The doctors advised that I had to drink a lot of fluids. So one way, in those days, we didn't know how addictive sugar was or is,
Right.
should I say. We didn't know how addictive sugar is. So I was given a lot of cool drink to drink, fizzy sweet drinks. So I believe I started developing, addiction and food addiction at age, and I started putting on weight, which then affected my self-esteem and worth.
And now, how old are you at this point? What's your age?
So, uh, so
6,
7 years old. So
6 or 7. This is happening.
6 or 7.
Wow. Oh my
That's
goodness.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's
So just starting school. I'm just starting formal school at that stage.
now you start school, and now you start to go through life with this, which you can't even really, you're 6, you don't even really know what's happening to you, right? You just know that you're this time period with your parents, and it's the apartheid, your nanny's taken away, and you're having panic attacks, you're developing this codependency, and now, as so often, it's affecting your self-worth because you're putting on weight.
Yeah.
Okay.
And starting to then be teased at school. So I wouldn't say bullied, but just teased. Being called fatty, or um, being othered by children, because children unfortunately can be quite nasty. And I also didn't enjoy sports because I was overweight. So it was sort of a cyclical thing. I didn't, because overweight, I didn't enjoy sports, and then because I didn't enjoy it, I wasn't exercising possibly as much as I should have. Luckily, we did. We are quite a sporting nation, so there was a lot of emphasis put onto sport, and it was quite competitive. So therefore, I also felt that I wasn't being able to compete with the other, especially the boys at school, because they were quite sporty. They were thinner than I was, and so I then I think it affected that stage, me being able to bond with um, other children, especially with the boys at that stage. So I actually started um, having friends with girls rather at a young age, which is unusual because at that age you're normally bonding with your own gender. So that was
Yeah. So Ivy, just saying, at a young age, 6 years, this is so sad. So much going on in your young world, in your young mind. trying to process this. And so I would love for you to continue on with the story, so we can see like what got you through that to get to where you are today, where you're working with people. Do you remember like any key moments where you made a decision or something happened and you realized like I need to make a change? Now, perhaps it could have been just over a period of time. You have these, we call them little flashpoints. But do you remember what
Yeah.
had transpired in order for to get you to move in the
Yeah.
positive
So the
direction?
big, so I was put on diets when I was a teenager. As a teenager, I was drinking, putting sugar into my coffee or tea. So I didn't, that was the one thing I remember specifically changing. So probably around the age of 12, 13, I stopped putting sugar into my tea and coffee. I did my best not to drink fizzy drinks, which was quite hard because if you were at a birthday party or anything like that, they would be serving fizzy drinks, sodas, etc. That
Yes.
was one turning point then. And my mother, very aware of it, herself been through it as a teenager too, because she had also suffered overeating.
Yeah, and Ivy said she resonates with you, and it's sometimes we're born into a family where maybe they weren't ready to be parents, and it can cause a lot of pain, which is it caused you a lot of pain.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't blame my parents so much. I think they were older. They were often we'd gone and they called our parents. I mean, my brother was more independent. He played rugby. I did play rugby. I broke my leg playing rugby. It's another turning point. I broke my leg playing rugby, which is like American football, except we don't wear all the headgear and thing, etc.
Right. So I love the way you said that you don't blame them. I mean, that's a part of healing, and that just is a testament to your
Yeah.
journey. We say in our community, I didn't take the easy road, but I still arrive on time. And I believe that's true for you. And I just want to grab some of these shares. It's a miracle you're still here. So grateful you got through this. So relatable. And Ivy saying, drink is probably an easy start to numb the feelings. Feel normal and carefree for a while and mask what we're going through. And I know you can relate to that. So, just for time purposes,
Yeah.
I want to help people understand the
Yes.
context of your earlier part. I'd like to move into, you know, what this transformation that happened in your life, albeit while going through codependency, and you the things that you chose to do as a young adult before you got to this point of where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing that I do want to point out is that because my nanny was in front of me, I understood from my heart, from my head, that apartheid was wrong, and it was actually declared a crime against humanity in 1973, which I didn't realize until much later. So I became an anti-apartheid activist at quite a young age. a young white male. And I also always fought for fairness in all respects, whether it was for minorities, for the majority of South Africans were black. So I became politicized at quite a young age.
Fairness.
Yeah, and political. Yeah, and the fact that people would discriminate not only on race but also on how big you, how fat you might be, how plump you might be, how intelligent you get. Luckily, I did well at school. So I was channeling myself into academics at a young age. I became as a prefect at school, which is sort of, I don't know what you would call that in other parts of the world, but basically I was in addition, at a young age at
Okay.
both my schools.
What I want to grab this.
First primary school. Yeah.
What is it that you did at school? I want to make sure I grab this for the audience.
Okay, so I became I sort of took on leadership, so chairmanships of societies. So I was part of Dramatic Society, for instance. So I was chairperson of that. I was what we call so at school, so looking after the other people's interests. I organized when I was in my last year of school. I organized a soccer tournament for the younger grade that I was put in charge of. So I would have been a teen at that stage, and would have been 14. So I had a leadership at that age, and yeah, I was just pretty much channeled my energy into being a good citizen, being a good boy, being a good scholar, and
get the cowbell going for that. So you had a healthy outlet to be a channeler
for failure.
Yeah. So that's a positive step in the right direction. And so yeah, that's what Mandy's saying. What was the decision point of transforming? What was the decision point where?
Well, I think a lot of my transformation started at university when I was in my first year of university. I met a good friend who I'm still friends with today. He lives in the now I lived in the UK as well because I left South Africa after university to avoid into the army, because all white males were conscripted into the apartheid army from the age of 18 at that stage. Wow. So you could defer it for studies, but then once I'd finished my studies here, I left and went to the UK, and that's how I ended up studying Manchester University, UK, and getting my master's in
your master's in organizational industrial psychology. Yeah.
Yeah. At university again, I started exercising more, and this friend of mine helped me. We used to go jogging, doing gym, things like that. So at university, I lost, I was probably about, I'm going to use kilograms, would be on the metric system. So before I went to university, probably 100 kilograms. So, and in my first year at university, I lost about kilograms in weight.
How many?
In my first year.
How much? How many kilograms?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, how many?
20. 20.
20.
20 kilograms.
Wow. Great job. So it sounds like, Simon, when you got to university, this positive change really started to happen in this environment. You're getting educated, you're working on your physical fitness. I would imagine your self-esteem, started to climb up and you started to feel better.
Yeah, it was a slow process. Also started as society. I started the Democratic Society at Rhodes University. So I was at University, it was my undergraduate university, which is in the Cape of South Africa. So I left home. So that was started becoming more independent as well.
Great. I'm wondering, because of the psychology of going through this, was there a moment that you remember where you said, like, that's it, I'm making a change? Because I know you shared with us, and I honor you for sharing with us that, you battled through some codependency and with the food. And was there a moment where, like, you were at a low and you just said, that's it, I'm making this change and I'm never going to look back?
I think it was when I got to university. So I must praise my mother, because she much encouraged me to leave home. To Rhodes University. She studied at Rhodes University, which was quite unusual for someone her age. And she actually has a library named after her in Kimberley in South Africa.
She has a library named after her?
She married my father.
Your mother has a library named after her?
Judy Scott.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, as well.
Wow, that's amazing.
The Judy Scott Library.
The Judy Scott Library.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That may speak to your academics, your ability to thrive in academia.
Yeah, Dad was a civil engineer. Yeah, mother was a civil engineer on the railways. So that was it. Yeah. So I came from a good background, middle class, upper middle class background. I was pro of the apartheid system in that respect, in terms of the education that I had. So I, blessed for that. And I did receive that, and received the privilege of.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask Mandy to join us backstage here in a moment.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So I want to get what you're saying. Mandy's going to be joining us backstage to do a recap, but just if you could go back to that last thing you said, I just want to make sure we grab that.
Okay, so I received a good education because of being privileged as a white South African. So, our education was largely free as white South Africans. It was of a very high standard, and even our university subsidized, although I went to an English university, which was less subsidized than the Afrikaans universities. And my mother encouraged me to leave home and go and study away, it's 900 kilometers away from Cape Town. So I
Mothers know.
And
mothers know.
Some independence away from family.
Yeah. So just for time purposes,
so that was the start of my independence.
Just for time purposes, because I want to make sure we extract your story, and I want to have Mandy. I know Mandy's going to have some of the to be able to reflect back, which is going to be well received. What created your Flashpoint? Like, what created, if you could, and think of it as you're teaching now, right? You're teaching the lessons of your story. Is there a point, something that you would want to share about what created your transformation? Is there I know it's a lot, so I know, but is there a key thing, a single key?
I think for me it was a process. So there was a process, but the flashpoint was, I think, went to university and realized that I needed to take responsibility for my own health, for my own well-being, and had friends who were still good friends who supported me in that and helped me realize that. So it was through friendships, building friendships, and
People
realizing
proximity.
that I needed to now take responsibility away from.
Yeah, that's great, Simon.
For my own health and well-being.
That's great, Simon. And you know what's your story is interesting because your story has this early childhood trauma, and then it develops into these anxiety, eating disorder, codependency, and then your environment changed. And when your environment changed, it changed you, and it began the process of healing. And then you kept pouring in the education to get your master's degree, to get the post diploma in counseling and coaching. And now you have all this experience working with people. You're using those skills and ability to take people on their own healing journey, their own health journey, so that they can heal themselves. And I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I want to encourage you to keep doing that. And I trust that this project, being a part of our book, being on today's show, beginning to share your story more, is going to expand your impact and your ability to serve others.
Yes, thanks, Austin. Well, thank you for this great opportunity to do that.
Well, yes, you're welcome.
Believed that
So
telling my story is important.
Yes, it is. And
Not
I'm going to,
for me, for other people to share.
Yes, for you and for other people. I'm going to ask Mandy to join us, and we have about maybe 10 minutes, and she's going to recap the show for us. And I think we're going to be very eager to hear this. So Mandy, are you ready to join us? Okay, here's our beautiful spokesperson, Mandy Robinson from Cobourg, Ontario. Hello, Mandy.
Hi, Austin. Hi, Simon. Thanks for having me here. What an incredibly inspiring and beautiful story. First of all, just to hear that you were at university in Manchester, you were just below where I was born in Yorkshire. So I relate to a lot of the English terms. I've got a real kick out of this, plus the most important thing, the inspiration. So just talking about your parents there, your father was an English gentleman. There was 22 years difference between you and your mom and dad. You always loved your parents. You said that right from the onset. You never blamed them, but there was addictions in there that caused them to behave the way they did. And one of the biggest things that stood out for me, because this was my experience too, that your mother would say that her kids are driving her to drink. That is a huge burden to put on any child. And the psychological implications from that down the road are massive, massive. You talked about her, the nanny that was employed, Regina, a local woman there in South Africa, and because she didn't have papers, she was arrested. So a traumatic psychological experience to see this beautiful woman that you loved and your nanny arrested. So the emotions that were behind the words that came from that were colossal, far-reaching. And so at nursery school, at this tender age of 6, God help you and God bless you for getting through it. You developed panic attacks and you felt fear of abandonment and you became addicted to sugar. So it turned inwardly into your weight gain and loss of self-respect and self-esteem. You began to be teased at school by the sports guys and ended up having girlfriends instead. You were put on diets as a teenager, but again, you're still saying that you didn't blame your parents. Your love for your parents was maintained throughout the whole ordeal.
Beautiful.
You spoke about breaking your leg. You then went on, and God bless you for this too. God bless you for this too. Anyone that knows my story, I'm an advocate for violence and sexual abuse against women. So when I heard that you became and took on these leadership roles because apartheid was wrong, you saw it as wrong, and you became an anti-apartheid advocate fighting for fairness for others. I've got goosebumps and I'm fighting tears because that's what I do when it comes to women's empowerment. Try and hold on here. There were things that you were judged on in your lifetime of race and stature and your intelligence, and this is what caused you to want to take on these leadership roles. You channeled them into your academics. You became a prefect. I was a prefect in an English school too, so I was smiling. I thought, God, you could be my brother. That's absolutely awesome. You organized soccer for the younger grades at age 14, and you became a good scholar because you were afraid of failing in the future. But you developed positive change when you went to university and met lifelong good friends in the UK. God bless the UK. God bless your friends, and God bless you for getting through this. You took on exercise, jogging. You lost 20 kilograms. You became more independent once you went to university, and this was also encouraged by your mother. So God love your mother too. You absolutely thrived in academia, my friend. I thrived in academia too. I just love you so much. Believe me, believe me. So
Beautiful.
This start of independence and the teaching lessons of your story was the process of being at university, realizing you needed to take responsibility for your own health and your well-being. You had great friends that helped you to realize that this was so important. And in our community, as Austin brought out, it's the people proximity that brings us the accountability to encourage us to make the transformation. So from that point, you began to, as Austin said, expand and impact your ability to serve others. And this is what Flashpoint is all about. Simon, I can't wait to read your story. I can't wait to read you in the Turnaround Health book that Austin's producing here. And again, as a previous co-author, it is so powerful that your story is going to move and make a difference in so many lives. So in conclusion, I just want to say how much I love you. God bless you. Thank you for being here. And I look forward to working with you with the team. Thank you, Austin.
Beautiful, Mandy. Great job. Simon, I just want to give it back to you here. And just to, I know you're probably feeling a lot, sharing your story and then hearing it back. What are you feeling? What are you thinking now?
Yeah. Well, Mandy's brought out what a fantastic scene and brought out emotion in me too. That my stories have such an impact on one person, and if it can have impact on person, how can it, many other people can it have impact on? So thank you, Mandy, for sharing it with such feeling, such emotion, and being able to identify with it.
Namaste.
So
You're welcome.
It's giving me goosebumps. Yeah.
Goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
We love goosebumps here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to share the book cover again, and then we'll come back on and we'll say goodbye to Simon, and then we'll close out the show. So let me share the book cover again that Simon's going to be in. we're excited to get this book done. We'll have a formal, informal, soft launch December, formal launch January. Yeah, this is
That's what I was just going to say.
yes, formal launch is January. We're going to have a summit on January 23rd. I trust that Simon will be there for that. So Simon, I'm just so glad that we could share this time with you today, despite the connection and all the stuff. And, we made it, we got your story out there, and this is just the beginning. And my message is always to encourage, to keep going, because sometimes we can think that people are not listening to our story, but this is validation that we need more of it. And Ivy, we're glad you're here today, and we will see you soon. And so Simon, God bless you. Thank you so much for being here. And I wish you to just continue. And we look forward to seeing you again at the summit on January 23rd.
God bless, Simon. Namaste, my friend. Namaste.
Thank you, Austin. Namaste.
Bye for now.
Yeah, the divine in me sees the divine in you.
Amen.
Thank you. Light to
Beautiful.
everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Have a great
Bye,
day.
everyone.
Wow, Mandy, that was a moving story.
Oh,
And, and I think it's notable that the culture in South Africa is different than here. And so when you're hearing that story, like, it was common to have nannies, for that.
that's right.
For the middle class. That was a common thing. It was common to have African-American nanny. And, obviously when the apartheid took place, can you imagine, it's like, I'm looking at the trauma that he went through, but also the collective that was happening in the culture, the stress of that. And I'm sure that was affecting his parents in some way, adding to the dysfunction that they had. And now you're growing up in this environment, but it's a beautiful story about, getting in the right environment. And that's why, it's so important to pay attention to the people proximity.
It's about a story of redemption.
Redemption.
Huge redemption. And like I said, I relate so much to his story, because although we didn't have apartheid in England, we still had the nanny system. And I didn't have nannies. I was fortunate for that, because Dad was in the army and we traveled all over the world. But it was very prevalent, and children that had nannies rarely saw their parents, rarely had any interaction with them. There was no cohesion. There was no instilling of principles, or there was no love from the parents, because it was the job of the nanny. And when a child is starved from the love of its parents, especially its mother, that is psychologically impacting in ways that you can only imagine. I so want to talk more to Simon. I want to hear more from him, because I don't know, I've just felt this incredible connection to him, to his story, because of the background. Yeah,
so let's stay on after the show, if Simon can stay with us in the green room.
Yes.
And I want to wrap up the show here, just say this has been a fantastic show today. And we want to encourage you to stay connected to us. And Mandy, if you just want to share what we can offer folks, as they're connecting here with our community, we can cover that quickly. And then we can close up. We have about 3 minutes.
Sorry, I didn't catch what you said. There was a glitch.
We're just wrapping up the show here and just letting everyone know how they can stay connected with us. We have about 3 minutes.
Yeah, okay. So get into Austin's private community, Journey to Freedom. There are 9 questions in there, a complimentary PDF that you can take advantage of for removing limiting beliefs. From there, you have an opportunity to complementarily come into the ACT program, which is about holding each other accountable through coaching community that leads to transformation. So people proximity again. So these are the ways to connect with Austin right now. And back to you.
Yeah, we'll put it in the link. And also join us every morning at 8 a.m. for the Gratitude Manifesto. Every morning we do a 15-minute show. It's a short show to start your day, to empower your day. We know there's a study from Harvard that says when you practice gratitude for 21 days, It increases your willpower. It increases your positive mood.
Yeah.
It affects your biochemistry and literally changes your brain for the better. And that we're doing that every day. So take advantage of that. That's streaming out on all the social media platforms that hopefully you're connected with me there. Mandy, go ahead.
That's huge. Actually, I just put a post in there this morning about a story, a true life story, and how the effect of what this son's father had created in making a difference in a family's life had impacted him, so that even later on, years later in his own personal life, whenever he remembers what his father did for this family and the gratitude it caused in him, it stirs the same gratitude emotions. So that is reverberated through time, not just in the moment. It's a huge thing to be grateful for every small thing, every large thing, and just express it and be grateful to each other. Express it, show it. It brings back untold blessings right through the rest of your life.
Beautiful, Mandy. I couldn't think of a better way to end. So thank you so much, everyone, for being with us today. This is Flashpoint. My name's Austin. That's Mandy. Your turnaround story starts here. We want to help you manifest the moment of your big breakthrough, the moment when it all makes sense. So we'll see you next week for next week's show, or join us for the daily Gratitude Manifesto.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone. Bye.